The fluorescent lights hummed faintly above the office floor, a sound few noticed, but one that seemed to echo the quiet unease beneath the company's glossy exterior. Apex Dynamics was known for its innovation, its pristine public image, and its smiling CEO, Daniel Cross. But behind those smiles and polished press releases, something darker lurked. And Daniel had decided to find out for himself just how deep it went. It started with a rumor. An anonymous email had landed in Daniel's private inbox: "Your people are being treated unfairly. Promotions go to favorites. Certain employees are being silenced. You should see what happens when the cameras aren't rolling." Daniel had seen complaints before, some exaggerated, some valid. But this one was different. Attached were screenshots, internal memos, and one chilling line. "If you were one of us, you'd understand." For the first time in years, Daniel couldn't sleep. By the next morning, a plan had begun to form. He would step down, publicly, at least, citing a temporary personal leave. In reality, he would return under a new name, a new face, and a new identity. With the help of a discreet investigative team and a fake resume, Daniel Cross became David Cole, a mid-level data analyst from out of state. When he walked into Apex's regional office for his first day, nobody recognized him. The lobby receptionist barely looked up. The HR manager skimmed through his papers, stamped a few documents, and waved him toward orientation. From that moment, Daniel entered his own kingdom as a stranger. Within days, the cracks began to show. It started small, whispered jokes about certain employees, offhand remarks about who fits the culture, and who didn't. But what bothered Daniel most wasn't the words, it was the silence that followed them. No one objected. No one flinched. They just smiled uncomfortably and went back to their screens. During lunch, Daniel sat with a group of younger staffers. One of them, a woman named Alicia, spoke quietly, her eyes darting toward the nearby supervisors. "You'll figure it out soon," she said. "They say this place promotes based on merit. But that's not how it really works." Daniel played along, feigning confusion. "What do you mean?" Alicia hesitated. "Let's just say, if you're not in the right circle, or the right color, or the right background, you stay exactly where you are. Doesn't matter how good you are." Her voice trembled slightly, and Daniel saw the truth behind her words. He also noticed how quickly she changed the subject when a manager walked by. The deeper he dug, the more rot he found. There were secret group chats, one for executive discussions, where department heads joked about employees' accents and appearances. There were falsified performance reviews that subtly pushed certain workers out of promotion tracks. One manager, a smug man named Carter Reeves, was at the center of it all. Carter was charming, on the surface. He smiled for the cameras, mentored interns, and called himself a diversity ally. But Daniel, watching from the inside, saw the reality. Carter was the gatekeeper. He controlled who advanced, who stayed, and who quietly disappeared from the company without explanation. Daniel began recording everything. Conversations. Memos. Even security footage where possible. Each night, he uploaded his findings to a secure drive. It was one evening, past 9 p.m., the office nearly empty, when Daniel found the smoking gun. A hidden folder on the internal server labeled Retention Strategy. Inside were reports categorizing employees not by performance, but by demographic. Notes like: too outspoken, may cause PR issues. Not leadership material, cultural mismatch. Good performer but doesn't blend well with core team dynamics. Daniel's blood ran cold. This wasn't a few bad apples. This was systemic. He printed copies, encrypted backups, and sent one to a trusted contact at a major news outlet, just in case something happened to him. The next morning, Carter called a sudden meeting. Daniel's name was on the invite. He entered the conference room to find Carter and HR Director Melissa Shaw waiting for him. Both wore smiles that didn't reach their eyes. "David," Carter began smoothly, "we've been reviewing your work. Impressive numbers, by the way." He leaned back. "But we did notice you've been accessing restricted files." Daniel's pulse quickened. He kept his expression neutral. "I was cross-referencing datasets. It's part of my role." Carter's smile hardened. "Oh, I see. Interesting. Because those datasets aren't part of your department's scope." Melissa folded her hands. "We take data privacy very seriously here. Especially from new employees." The air thickened. Daniel's mind raced. Had they found out who he was? "Is there something you'd like to tell us, Mr. Cole?" Carter asked. Daniel met his eyes. "Only that I believe in transparency." Carter chuckled softly, but there was steel beneath it. "Transparency is good, as long as it doesn't cross the line." The meeting ended with polite threats disguised as advice. Daniel walked out, aware that his cover was slipping. The surveillance had turned toward him. Over the next few days, the tension grew unbearable. His keycard was restricted. His access logs were flagged. Alicia avoided him, maybe warned to stay away. Daniel knew he was running out of time. He compiled his final report, attaching every piece of evidence, every recording, and every name involved. He titled it, "Inside Apex Dynamics, A Culture of Concealed Discrimination." The night before he planned to send it, Daniel received a text from an unknown number. "We know who you are." His breath caught. He looked around his apartment, the city lights glowing faintly through the blinds. Then, a knock on the door. Slow. Deliberate. He grabbed his phone. Recording as he approached. "Who's there?" No answer. Just silence. Then another knock, heavier this time. Daniel peeked through the peephole. A shadow stood outside, tall and still. The phone buzzed again. Another message appeared. "You should have left it alone." The shadow moved closer. The doorknob turned slightly. Daniel backed away, heart hammering. He pressed "send" on the email, the full report dispatched to the press and his board. Then, as the door burst open. The door crashed open. Daniel stumbled backward as two men in black suits entered his apartment. Their movements were efficient, no wasted motion, no words. One grabbed his laptop while the other swept the room. Daniel's phone, still recording, slipped from his grip and clattered to the floor. "Who are you?" he shouted. Neither answered. One of them unplugged the Wi-Fi router, pocketed a hard drive, and motioned for the other to leave. In less than 30 seconds, they were gone, leaving behind only silence, a broken doorframe, and the faint smell of cologne. Daniel's pulse thundered in his ears. He rushed to his phone, cracked, but still recording. He checked his email outbox. The message had sent. Every file. Every video. Every memo. But when he tried to open his inbox again, an error appeared. Account locked, access revoked. Someone inside Apex had already moved. By morning, the story hit the internet. Leaked files revealed discrimination at Apex Dynamics. The headline spread like wildfire. Screenshots of the retention strategy folder appeared on social media. News anchors dissected the company's diversity claims against the damning evidence. At first, Apex denied everything. Carter Reeves appeared on television, all smiles and charm, calling it a malicious fabrication by a disgruntled ex-employee. The PR team flooded platforms with statements about false narratives and ongoing internal reviews. But then, the footage surfaced. The recording from Daniel's hidden camera, Carter and Melissa discussing how to filter candidates who don't align with the company's culture. The clip went viral. Within hours, Apex's stock began to plummet. Inside the chaos, Daniel was on the run. He'd gone dark, no phone, no cards, no traceable activity. The men who'd broken into his apartment weren't police or corporate security. They were private contractors, Apex's damage control division. Their job wasn't to investigate. It was to erase. 3 days later, Daniel met with an investigative journalist, Clara Hensley, in a dim cafe on the city's edge. "You're the one who sent the files?" she asked quietly, sliding her recorder across the table. Daniel nodded. His eyes were hollow from sleepless nights. "There's more. They're not just covering up discrimination. They're manipulating data, government contracts, employee metrics, diversity audits. It's all fake." Clara's eyes widened. "Do you have proof?" Daniel opened a small encrypted drive. "Everything." As she plugged it in, her laptop screen flickered, then went black. A soft click came from behind them. Clara froze. Daniel turned. A man stood by the door, phone in hand, watching. Clara shut the laptop quickly. "We need to go." They slipped out through the back alley, just as 2 black sedans rolled to a stop at the cafe entrance. The next 48 hours were a blur. Clara's team at the Sentinel Tribune published the second exposé, this time with financial evidence. It confirmed that Apex Dynamics had been falsifying reports for years, securing government incentives meant for inclusive corporations. The fallout was nuclear. Regulators launched investigations. Investors pulled funding. Employees leaked more emails, exposing years of ignored complaints and retaliations. But with every revelation, the company fought back harder. Carter disappeared from public view. Melissa resigned, but leaked documents showed she'd received a 7-figure payout days earlier. Anonymous bots flooded social media to discredit Daniel and Clara, painting them as conspirators. Then, the threats began. Clara received a call late one night, a distorted voice saying, "Stop digging, or you'll end up like him." She didn't understand what that meant until she reached Daniel's safe house the next morning. The door was ajar. The place ransacked. A cup of coffee still steaming on the table. But Daniel was gone. News broke later that day, a burned-out car had been found on the outskirts of the city. The ID inside matched Daniel's alias, David Cole. Clara stared at the news feed, her stomach twisting. She refused to believe it. The timing was too clean, the evidence too perfect. She returned to her office, locked the door, and opened the encrypted drive again. This time, she dug deeper, into the folders Daniel had labeled Internal Apex Vault. Inside, she found one last recording. It was timestamped 2 days before his disappearance. Daniel sat in front of his camera, tired but resolute. "If you're watching this, it means they found me. But don't believe what they say. The corruption goes higher than Carter. Higher than the board. There's someone else, someone funding it all. Look for the name Vanguard Liaison Contract. That's where the real money is." He leaned forward, whispering. "And Clara, trust no one inside Apex. Not even those pretending to help." The video ended. Within hours, Clara's office was raided under the guise of a data security check. She barely escaped with her laptop and the encrypted files. Every major outlet that had covered the Apex scandal suddenly went silent. Advertisers pulled out. Legal threats piled up. It became clear, Apex wasn't falling. It was transforming. The company announced a restructuring under new leadership. Press releases claimed the old management had been removed, and a fresh era of accountability had begun. But the new CEO's name stopped Clara cold, Evan Cross. Daniel's brother. Late that night, Clara sat in her car outside Apex's towering headquarters. The lights were on, every floor glowing white against the dark sky. She replayed Daniel's final message. The sound of his voice, steady even in fear, echoed in her mind. Then she noticed something. in the reflection of the glass doors, a figure watching her from across the street. A tall man in a gray coat. Face shadowed. But as he turned under the streetlight, her heart skipped. It was Daniel. Alive. He held up a finger to his lips, a silent warning, and then disappeared into the crowd before she could call out. Clara's phone buzzed. A new message appeared. It's bigger than we thought. They're still watching. Don't trust anyone. Not even me. She looked back at the Apex building, now glowing brighter, cleaner, quieter than ever, as though nothing had happened. And deep inside, Clara realized something chilling: the exposure hadn't destroyed Apex. It had only made it smarter. The company had survived the storm. But this time, it was watching from the shadows. And somewhere in that darkness, Daniel Cross was still fighting, not as a CEO, not as an employee, but as the ghost of the truth they tried to erase. And as the lights of Apex Dynamics burned brighter than ever, one truth lingered in the shadows. The system didn't fall, it evolved. Because sometimes, corruption doesn't die, it adapts. If you were hooked by Undercover CEO exposes company's discriminatory practices. Collision, don't forget to like. Speaking Head, drop a comment about your favorite moment. And bell subscribe for more gripping thriller stories just like this. Where power hides in plain sight.